Let's talk about HTMAs a little bit because this is a thing
Yeah.
a lot of people in my big group. So we worked in a small group, but now you're going to help out in the big group a little bit as your time permits. Um, a lot of people will come into that big group with an HTMA and
Quite
be
a bit of them.
a lot of them, and they flip out about it. And because number one, they don't necessarily know how to read them. And number two, or they've been to a practitioner who doesn't know how to read them. And then they get this long list of supplements and they're just told to stay on them indefinitely. So there's so many.
Indefinitely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. And these are facts. And I knew that I wasn't going to memorize them off the top of my head. So I have them written down on like a little sheet here. But here are some of like the issues that I spotted on like a big time analysis of the research that I've been doing. And
Mhm.
pretty much like multiple studies with these HTMAs, they've shown large variations in results between different laboratories that analyze them. So based on the different laboratory you go to, you can actually get a big time variation. One study found that differences in the highest and lowest reported mineral concentrations exceeded tenfold for 12 minerals, with statistically significant extreme values for 14 out of 31 minerals. One interesting thing to consider. And then another study reported that the ratio of high mean to low mean values published by different laboratories range from 2 for selenium and zinc to 18 for aluminum. Coefficients of variation for trace elements in hair of the donor ranged from 17 to 74% for the essential elements like copper, selenium, zinc, and 53 to 121% for the potential intoxicants such as aluminum, cadmium, and lead. So the variability right there is a huge problem. And this is part of the reason why I say that you need to have a very good practitioner if you decide to do an HTMA. This might upset some people, but most naturopaths, and like I would say a lot of them, aren't as good at reading HTMAs as you would think. And there really there aren't that many practitioners out there that are like absolutely amazing at it. Truth is that there are way more practitioners that don't know what they're doing with an HTMA and looking for like these variations and if something is problematic or whatnots. And yeah, a lot of them really don't know, but there are some. And that's why I had to say this because I like to stay humble in my opinion about a lot of this stuff. But there are some incredible HTMA practitioners. But my honest perspective on it is that HTMA usually is not going to be enough. I think that you should get blood chemistry done as well if you're going to do an HTMA because
Yeah.
you want to look at like how are your organ systems doing, and unless you're like basically like a magician, well, you're not going to be able to tell what every single thing that's happening in someone's body based on the metals. And you're going to want to look at different markers like a comprehensive metabolic panel, a CBC, a lipid panel, maybe a hormonal panel. And then you can throw the HTMA on top of that and it'll give you a very comprehensive picture. But going back to what we were saying earlier about the holistic perspective and all of this stuff, is it a very holistic thing to do? To single out the metals and to only look at the mineral balancing and to not
Right.
look at a lot of these other blood markers that show that there's other weakened areas of physiology. Like I'm all for mineral balancing. I think it's an important thing, but two things, it needs to be done right. And we need to see if there's any other weakened areas of physiology that actually need to be addressed. So
Yeah.
if you are ordering an HTMA, like be really adamant about doing the procedures correctly and make sure that like there isn't any crap on your hair, obviously, as well, and all that stuff. And then
Yeah.
I guess with all this being said, though, like we do know that aluminum, it's a problem. It's been associated with autism, Alzheimer's disease, all these other things. Cadmium, lead, a lot of these other heavy metals, they're very problematic. So I'm not saying that HTMAs are bad, and I'm not saying that heavy metals aren't a big issue. What I am saying is that we want to look at the full picture. So if the metals are one issue, you write that down and you say, what are the other things that are going on here? And
Mhm.
what's upstream of each other here in this like kind of big picture? And then from
Yeah.
there, you're able to form that plan where you're like, step one, take care of this, maybe take care of this at the same time. Step two, take care of this. We go here. And it's a lot easier to actually manage. But I guess yeah, I wouldn't put as much emphasis on the HTMAs unless you're working with a very good practitioner that like basically makes it their career to understand this stuff and
Yeah.
is getting as deep as possible into it because HTMA, I think that that's an art and a science to it as well. and you have to be like very in depth on this.
And it's all like with the, and don't try to read your HTMA yourself.
Please don't.
And
It's
don't do it
confusing.
without, number one, don't try to read it yourself. And number two, don't do it without blood work, because it
Yes.
doesn't tell the full picture.